This is our farmhouse porch. We've lived in this house for the last 25 years. Most of that time, we were junkers, and this porch was full of stuff that we bought at auction and that we were fixing up and getting ready to sell. And 2 years ago, we reclaimed our porch. I purchased a couple of these pieces off of Facebook Marketplace. A couple pieces came from the auction. And then there are a couple pieces that came from a yard sale. But they all need to be redone and acclimated into our farmhouse porch. I'm going to start our porch makeover with making some accessories. And the first thing I'm doing is I am making a poster for the wall. I am going with a garden style farmhouse porch. So everything is going to have just a wee bit of botanical on it. So the first thing I have to do is we cut these boards and I have to seal it and prime it. So that's what I did first. I sealed it and I primed it with Pent Art Primer. And once it's all dry, it'll be ready for decoupage. This is the fabric I'm going to be using to make all of the new cushions. So you will see that everything else I'm doing has a little bit of those colors in it. So this is our poster. It is Dreer's catalog. It's a catalog for nasturtiums. And I purchased this decoupage paper on Zazzle. I purchased it a while ago, but I did check and it is still available. It is called Dreer's Catalog. And it is really, really pretty. And it has that navy blue background, which is what I need to match. Not to be matchy-matchy, but just to coordinate with all of the other items that I'm putting on the porch. So I am decoupaging it to the board. I am using Wise Owl varnish. I'm actually using the satin varnish. I'm going to put several coats over this, not necessarily to make it to shine, but to make it so that it's pretty easy for me to wipe it down. We get a lot of dust on our porch. We're pretty close to the road. So I want to make sure that everything I make is pretty easily cleaned and the dust can be removed, and then it could be wiped down. Also, it's outside, really, even though it's a covered porch, so it may absorb a lot of moisture, so we want to prevent that also. I don't know why, but I never seem to get those edges down well, so I always seem to have to go over and do them again. I'm also doing some stress cuts because the edges are the side is kind of pulling off the board just because it's not as wet, so it needs to be have some stress cuts. So this poster is very distressed. Before it's distressed, it's very distressed. It's got wrinkles in it. It's got fold lines in it. So if I had wrinkles when I did the decoupage, you wouldn't even notice them because there are so many places where this poster is distressed. I am using a piece of actually the plywood, and it's 5/8 inch thick, but we are also going to put a border around it to protect it even more and actually to make it look kind of finished and kind of a little higher end. We use this farmhouse as an Airbnb, so I am making everything on the porch actually look kind of a little nicer than I would if it was just a regular porch. We want to entice people to come out on the porch and enjoy themselves. Here is the frame pieces that I am painting, and I am mixing up some milk paint. Nothing looks more vintage than milk paint. So I am just going to give this one coat of milk paint and get these all ready to attach to the poster. And then I will finish them all with a coat of Wise Owl varnish and satin. Milk paint does not have a top coat in it. I used the milk paint on another one of the projects for the porch, so I had it all mixed up. So it is already mixed in, and it is the color, it is farmhouse white, very fitting for our little farmhouse porch. So my husband cuts these and miters these, so you have like a inch on the back and a little bit over a half an inch on the front. And what it does is it prevents the plywood from warping, and it gives the whole poster a super finished, nice look. Very professional looking. Once they're all dry, we will put them around the poster, and then the final thing will be the top coat of the whole thing. Milk paint dries super, super fast. And the nice thing about milk paint and raw wood, which this is the paint goes into the wood. Everything's dry and it's ready to assemble. So you can see there's a lip that goes underneath the poster, and there's a little edge that abuts right up to the poster. So none of the poster is hidden. It just butts right up to it. And it's all laid out, and it's going to be ready to put some glue on it. So he glues the side, the little pieces, and he nails them, making sure he has a good fit. He's a little meticulous, which I love. And here he is. He pulled that one off, and he puts a line of glue along it just to be extra careful, makes it extra strong. And all of the corners are mitered, so they fit in perfectly. And then after they're glued in, he takes his nail gun, which I guess is a brad gun, and just nails them all in. Glues them first and then nails them all in. Checks out his work. Make sure there's enough nails so nothing's going to separate. And there it is, all done. The first accessory for our porch, the Dur's Garden Calendar. The next project for our porch is what I'm calling my serving tray. And I am making my serving tray out of a wooden box that we've had for a long time. It isn't a super, super sturdy box, so it's perfect for the use that we are going to use it for. And the first thing I want to do is I want to paint it, and then I am going to stencil it and stamp on it, and I'm also going to put some decoupage on it. Now, because it's going on a porch, I really wanted something that had sides, just because there's not as much room on a porch for people to move around, and I want it to be super safe. So the first thing I did is I used some milk paint, because this was raw wood. So I am mixing up some Miss Mustard Seed milk paint in I believe this is Farmhouse White, and actually I had to put a little grain sack in with it to extend it a little bit. So I'm mixing the milk paint up. I let it rest for a little while, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint the whole outside of the box. We have purchased so many boxes over the years, and quite often they're lined with newspaper, the really old ones. So I decided I was going to stamp this box with the Le Courrier stamp, which is a newspaper, a French newspaper stamp from IOD. So I stamped all four sides, and this is going to be my background, the Le Courrier stamped images all over my box. I cut my stamp up because I use this stamp a lot for art journaling. So I keep it attached to the backing, but I do cut them apart and use them in smaller sizes. After I stamped the whole background, I then decided I wanted it to fade into the background just a little bit more. So I went ahead and sanded it back just a little bit so that it would look a little more muted. In keeping with my garden style botanical porch accessories, well, that was a mouthful, I decided to put a small stencil out on the middle of the two long sides, and I am using the JRB flower fresh flower market stencil. And then I also found these seed packet downloads on Etsy, and they were like $1.99 for like 12 of them. So, and it's a digital download. You just download it and you keep downloading it. So I downloaded it and printed it out on rice paper, and it worked perfectly. So I wanted to keep with my little bit of dark blue because that's what the color that is going to be in the cushion covers. So I did the stencil in the dark blue. And I only used part of it. You can see that the paper, I blocked it off up at the top. I only wanted the top says fresh cut every day, but I just wanted the flower market, bloom stems and seeds, and mostly the market and the bloom stems and seeds because I have seed packets on the sides. It's a pretty thin lined stencil, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's just a little bit of another detail. And of course, I wanted to keep with the distressed farmhouse look, so I sanded that back a little also. And once that was totally dry, I was ready to do the decoupage of the seed packets. And here they are. The seed packets are pretty distressed and quite super vintage looking. Some of them have dates on them of 1890 and their catalogs or their seeds. And I simply printed them on rice paper, and I'll put a link in for the rice paper that I use. And I use my Epson printer, and I have no bleed through when I use my varnish and I do the decoupage at all. It works out perfectly. I'll also put a link for the Etsy shop where I purchased these. Now you see when you use the rice paper and I'm using YSL varnish, it really takes that paper and it makes it almost transparent. So it just really does add another vintage look to the box, which I guess I have to start calling a tray. I decoupage two seed packets on either side of the flower market stencil. And then I put a top coat on the whole thing with Wise Owl varnish. And I used a satin because I really wanted it to be washable. And I actually put a second coat on, and I may even do a third coat. So once that was done, it was time to do the inside. Now I had debated over whether I was going to stamp um, here's all four sides, whether I was going to stamp the Le Courrier stamp inside or whether I wanted to decoupage it. But the first thing I did is I went ahead and I painted it with the same milk paint that I had on the rest of the tray. And then I decided I was going to use the wildflower stamp from IOD to really keep with my the botanical farmhouse look that I really wanted to have on all of the porch decor. So I just cut the inside of the box is 11 inches. So I cut one of the thin mounts to be 11 inches. So it'd be real easy to fit it in there and put it. I have two of those stamps so I could spread it out. And I have a couple of the same. And I just went ahead and stamped it with the black ink. And like I said, I thought I might do something else, but once it was done, I loved it so much that I decided I was going to leave it exactly how it was. So I went ahead and top coated it. And it really does just look like little wildflowers. So I inked up just part of it, one side of it, and then I stamped it again. You can't have a tray without handles. So I have these old, actually they're reproduction cast iron, and we just went ahead, drilled holes. We actually put a support inside of the tray because the boards on this tray are only like a half an inch thick, and I'm just afraid if there was a lot of weight in the box, there wouldn't be enough support. So hubby drilled some holes, hit the screws in it, and there it is. The third project I am making for my porch accessories is this pillow. And I picked up this pillow for $2 at the thrift store. It has a great downliner in it, and it is 19 inches square. And I am going to stencil it kind of like summertime, beachy, camping, vacation, all those sorts of words on it. And I'm going to make a subway sign. And I am using stencils from the Funky Junk collection. So I just went ahead and stenciled words that would be appropriate. I used Wise Owl 1 hour enamel paint in color Refurbished Gentleman. The fabric was a little bit off-white, so the Refurbished Gentleman is kind of a bluish green, but it looked very denim-y. It came out on the off-white fabric. And the fabric has some texture. I don't think it's cotton. I think it might be a blend of some kind with polyester in it. But it took the paint perfectly. When I stencil, I do not like the bridges, the little spaces while you're in between. So I go ahead and I paint them when the paint is still dry, and actually it works perfect on fabric. Um, while the paint is still dry, I fill it in so it doesn't look like a stencil. And look at the difference. Once you fill it in, it just makes such a difference. It looks so much more professional. I did not have an exact plan of what words I was going to put where when I started this project. I just kind of filled them in like a puzzle and made sure that I had a little variation. A couple of the stencils have words that are in a little different script, and I kind of filled those in. You'll see cabin. Cabin has a different script, but the huge letters just really make such a big difference on this pillow front. I didn't have any frog tape or masking tape for this project, so I ended up using packing tape, and it's a little harder to work with. And also, you'll notice I reposition the foam board that's inside the pillow front. And that's what I'm able to stencil against so that the paint does not go down into the other layer, and also so it gives me something firm to stencil against. And the last word that I put on after I do lake is rest. So what I did is I used the RES from the resort, and then I moved the stencil and added the T. And then my pillow was done. Once everything was all dry, I went ahead and I sanded the words a little bit. I wanted to give it a little bit of a faded, beachy look, and it works perfectly, actually. Sanding the fabric a little bit didn't smudge the words. I had made sure they were totally dry. And then I was ready to stuff my pillow form into my pillow. This pillow is down in feathers and it's super full and fluffy. So I had to fold it in order to get it into the pillow cover. And what I do is I fold it, I push it all the way in, and then I take and really push those corners up in the feather and down up into the corners of the pillow cover. And the last thing I do, which you're not going to see on the camera, is I take the pillow and I hit it against my knee to really distribute the down evenly. And it works. I do it with every pillow cover that I make. And once we get that zipper closed, because like I said, that pillow wants to pop out. It's an invisible zipper, so it's a pretty quality made pillow. And there it is. So that is the first video of our neglected porch renovations. And these are some of the accessories that we are going to put on the porch. So video number 2 will be cushions and pillows for the settee and the seating. And then video number 3, putting it all together.